I think you proved the premise of your argument that the Duke and Duchess of York very definitely leveraged their very privileged position as royals for personal gain. But you make a darker assertion in the introduction of the book where you say it was with the connivance of the palace. Now, I don't want you to go into too much detail because I'm going to delve into this later in the interview. But in general terms, what did you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I think the palace, and by that I mean the advisors and indeed members of the royal family, knew exactly what was going on. The rule seems to be that as long as you're not caught, it's fine, and then we'll do some damage limitation. I know that there were complaints for him, particularly as special representative, made by senior diplomats to the royal family and to the courtiers, and nothing was done. I mean, I think there's a bit I quote where the Queen basically, having been told things, basically it was pretty clear that she wasn't going to do anything about it. And I think I have a caption in the book, every time that he did something terrible, she gave him another honor. Her son could do no wrong. So I'm afraid that it goes right back to the Queen, and she colluded with a lot of these dodgy financial deals that he was doing. Inviting some of these people, the president of Azerbaijan and others, to Windsor, and accepted gifts from them, knowing full well what was going on. And I even have people in intelligence reporting to the palace, to private secretaries, and being told by the private secretaries it's all a waste of time. So I'm afraid this rot, this financial corruption goes to the heart of the royal family. It's not going to be enough to cut off one limb. There needs to be a proper examination, a proper inquiry, parliamentary inquiry into his time as special representative. I'm arguing, actually, as MPs did 20 years ago, that the National Crime Agency should be looking at this for profiting from public office. And I think the royal family need to do some very serious thinking about how they operate.
That was one of my questions later on. Do you think that the National Crime Authority should actually look into this? So, yes, you've already answered that one.
Not just Andrew. I think there is a case against Sarah Ferguson as well.
I'm really shocked about that, about the Queen. I guess a lot of people watching this interview will be. Do you think that there is any sort of justification in that it was her son and that she was acting as a mother rather than a monarch?
Well, I know it's not going to make me popular with your viewers, what I say, but as you know, I always say what I find. I don't think there's any excuse. I mean, of course, there are mothers who give their sons into the police if they've committed a crime. I think she could have shut him down many years earlier. I mean, he spent 10 years as special envoy, and these reports were coming in within months. So she could have actually done the damage limitation much earlier. She's not here to see the fallout. But, and maybe there wouldn't have been fallout. I mean, the government is still preventing me from seeing any of the files on Andrew for this period, using every excuse in the book not to reveal them. And again, I'm calling for those files to be released as they should be under the Public Records Act. But I'm afraid, no, the Queen has, a lot to answer for. She isn't here to answer it. And the King himself knew. And the King had no illusions about his brother. He was the one who wanted to keep him in the Navy and keep him out of mischief, and didn't want him to become special representative. So, I mean, this was, as school friends said to me, Andrew was an accident waiting to happen. And that's been the story all through his life. He should have been controlled much more. And he was just allowed to do what he wanted. And indeed, as special representative, the diplomats talk about him and his wife just turning up and expecting them to lay on things for them and basically do some networking for them. The thing is deeply, deeply corrupt.
I want to talk about the Epstein revelations. Now, your version of events does not meld with the recent DOJ and FBI memo that was recently released. Now, you knew what you had. You knew what you were about to publish. So what was your reaction to that memo?
Well, I mean, there have been several memos. One memo saying they had a lot of stuff and they were going to release it. The next memo saying there's nothing on Donald Trump here. And yes, we know that people from the FBI have been paid to go through the material. I think there are 100,000 mentions of Trump in the Epstein material to take it out. So that must have been a big job. So, I mean, there's no doubt that Trump was deeply involved with Epstein. And he's just trying to, as he often does, trying to deflect the blame. But it looks so obvious what he's doing that I don't think anyone is taken in. And, people will begin to emerge that will talk about the relationship between the two of them. I have no doubt about it.
Well, I think your book will go a long way to doing that, to encouraging people to speak out. Now, you lay out the case that Prince Andrew was actually very entwined with Jeffrey Epstein, and over a much longer period of time that I certainly realised than anyone really realised. Were you surprised to find that out?
No, no, I wasn't. I knew the relationship went on a lot longer than he said. I mean, he claimed that it only happened at the end of the 1990s, but I knew from stuff that I'd already read. I mean, his private secretary, Alistair Watson, had written a letter to the Times saying the relationship began in the early 90s. So it didn't surprise me when Steve Hoffenberg said it was 1991. I think what did surprise me was the extent of the relationship with Fergie. That Fergie's relationship also began earlier. It lasted longer. We had Coco P appear in one of you, or make a comment in one of our chats, saying that she'd seen Fergie at the flats after 2010. And I hope Coco P will get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to her. But I've had other sources come forward since our discussion, showing that relationship continued after Fergie said it had ended. And Fergie there were 18 numbers for Fergie in the Black Book, 16 for Andrew. She stayed, we know from testimony, legal depositions and from members of staff, that she stayed quite often in Manhattan and even visited Palm Beach. And I'm now trying to nail whether she ever went to the island. So there's a lot of, I think that's the interesting question. Everyone has been focused on him and Epstein, but actually what was her relationship? And why hasn't she come forward to give testimony to the FBI?
Mentioning Coco P, I wonder, when we had a discussion about that, obviously a lot of people would be afraid to come forward and talk to you. Did you find that in the course of researching the book, particularly about Epstein, that they were quite terrified to talk to you?
Absolutely. I mean, the problem with members of staff, for example, is they signed NDAs and the royal family do come after them for infringing it. They use illegal intimidation a lot. I mean, you've probably seen the papers that Prince Harry has denied the stories about him and the fight with Andrew, and without giving me a chance to respond, has leaked a story to Newsweek. And that's what they do. They use, in fact, what we call slaps to try and put people down and change the narrative. But yes, of course. And I mean, for example, my researchers in Kazakhstan just could find very little because people were so frightened, because Andrew was well connected with the regime there. And there, it really is quite dangerous if you speak out. So yeah, people aren't talking. And of course, a lot of the victims of Epstein signed deals with him. They're now married women with children. The last thing they want to do is for the story to come out. So I'm very grateful to the people who did talk to me. Often it wasn't in their interest to do so, but I think they were determined that the story should come out and the truth be told.
Were you a little bit disappointed when all the mainstream media sort of really focused on that Harry story, on that, and some of them even got it wrong. They got the timeline wrong. What you said was that the fight happened in 2013 and the comments about Meghan were in 2017. But a lot of the commentators sort of didn't spell that out, give the proper timeline, so there was confusion there. Was it disappointing, or are you just such a seasoned pro now that nothing phases you and you're happy with anything that gets taken up?
Well, I mean, it was a paragraph in the book. It's not something I expected that would be picked up. It was sort of incidental. So, yeah, it is disappointing because, I mean, I think there are more important issues to really be discussed and I'd hope would be picked up. But yes, the sloppy reporting is irritating because I get accused of being sloppy myself.